Boom, boom. How's going? How's going? It is I, your boy TJ, coming out straight live from M5 Property Addicts. And like it is, we bring you another successful friend of the M5. And in the hot seat today is someone that I've been checking out. He likes to show off some of the cool things that he's doing. And I'm like, who is this guy? Let's have a conversation. And this is Calvin Mkwanazi. Calvin, how's it going?
Ah, man, I'm super, man. Yourself?
Awesome. Great having you around. Let's dive into it. Who is Calvin? What do you do? What's your story? You look like you're in real estate, but just give us your background. Who are you?
Yeah. Thanks, Taurai. First of all, thanks for the invite
Sure.
to your show. Calvin Mkwanazi, born in Soweto and later raised in Orange Farm, township of Orange
Right.
Farm. Yeah, done the schooling and all of that, and later pursued a career in accounting. So I studied and qualified as a chartered accountant,
Yeah.
and operated for that as a chartered accountant for some time. But in the background, the property thing was always there, back when in my studies, because I studied at UJ, University of Johannesburg. So, and in those years, I actually lived in the commune. So there's a lot of communes that cater for students in and around the UJ area, Wits area. So in my schooling days, I lived in those communes just like many other students. And that's when I got to see the beauty of the property space, just by looking at the landlords. And in my head, it was more of a logical move to say, I'm here and I'm paying these guys, I'm never late, and there's like 10 of us living in the same property. They must be making a lot of money. So it made
Yeah.
sense for me to consider going into that. So I think immediately after finishing my honors and I started my articles, that's when the property journey started for me. And yeah, man, I haven't looked back since. We've been in the game now since 2015. And we're growing. And we just hope that we'll continue learning. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Now I want to ask you a question. You say that you grew up in Soweto and you moved over
Orange Farm.
to Orange Farm.
Yeah.
I'm personally familiar with all of those places. At a point, I had a project not far away from Orange Farm in the area called Ekenhof, and that's kind of like the low LSM areas, and we can easily say that's one of our poor markets within our communities. People would look down on terms of Orange Farm. So if you're growing up on Orange Farm, your next possible job is to be a cleaner at someone's house, or you probably being a gardener in someone's garden, or you're going to be working at a ShopRite somewhere. For you, the journey didn't go that way. Instead, it went into hard learning, doing something that's amazing. Well done again on your degrees and things like that you've acquired in terms of education and being a CA. CAs are potentially one of those people within our markets that are still seen to be, one of those most difficult jobs because not everyone can crunch numbers, right? It's difficult. But you go on to do that from a very disadvantaged background. How did you crack that out? Because there could be someone right now who is in Orange Farm. They're thinking it can be done. I can be a CA. What was your path? Baby steps. Just give us baby steps on how did you actually get to be at UJ? Because I think for a lot of us, we dream to be there, but we can't get there. We see these blockers, whatever we can call them, and we start putting labels upon ourselves. Hey, I'm black. Hey, I'm from Orange Farm. Hey, I'm whatever that is. But for you, you was able to move away from that and become something long before real estate came in. What was the baby steps there?
Yeah, man. A couple of things. I wouldn't say it was one thing, but it was a couple of things. And the biggest part of it for me personally was my mother.
Yeah.
Honestly, if it wasn't for her and her discipline that she installed upon us, her kids, I
Is it
mean,
the
first of
discipline or is it the stick? Just tell it like it is, man.
I would like to say the discipline, man. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I
For
mean,
me,
I'm
it was
the
the stick. I was scared of
it
the
was a
stick.
stick.
Yeah, it was the stick, man.
Yeah, the stick also, but yeah, I would sugarcoat it and say the discipline. But
Sure.
I mean, and because I'm the first of three kids,
Right.
and yeah, man. So I think growing up, seeing my mother's hustle, because my mother has been an entrepreneur from day one. Like she's never worked for a person a day in her life. So I think
Mm.
I think that sort of rubbed off on us as her kids, and being the firstborn and all of that, I pretty much had the responsibility to be the trendsetter, you know, for those that followed. And I think
Right.
I mean, she fought for us to go to the decent schools. I mean, we were fortunate enough that despite the challenges that she was going through with being a self-employed individual, but she still fought for us to at least get the necessary education, you know, which for me was priceless. I mean, you can never replace that. So I think the
Yeah.
first thing for me that got me to got me to choose the career path that I chose was the influence that I got from her, the teachings I got from her. But also, I think I don't know. I guess I was fortunate enough, but I knew what I wanted from a very young age. You know, like for
Okay.
me, yeah, there was no second guess about it. Like I
Where
knew.
did it come from? You know you kind of like say you knew what you wanted. I mean I look for many people, especially coming from a township. You've never seen a train
Mm,
driver before who drives a cow train.
mm,
So that
mm,
is totally out of your space. You don't know it. You just don't know.
yeah. Mm.
But there you are at a young age. You set on you know exactly what you want. Where did that where did that where did that exposure come from?
I don't know. Like, okay, if I think back in school, I never really resonated with any other topic in school other than numbers.
Sure.
Literally, like I literally didn't resonate with sciences. Nothing else made sense to me other than mathematics. Back in
Yeah.
primary, moved on to high school, and for me, so what I made up in my mind was that whatever it is I want to do in the future, it has to include numbers because that's the only thing I
Right.
understand, right? So I think that's where the um, the gravitation towards the accounting space started because I won't lie and say I knew what an accountant is in school. I didn't know. I only figured that out when I was in varsity. But I knew that it had to be something related with numbers and calculations of some sort, right?
Mm.
Number two, I I knew that um, I knew that life is a marathon, right? And again, that was one of the lessons instilled in me to me by my mother. I knew that life was a marathon, and I knew that if I'm gonna rush towards making quick cash now, chances are it's gonna catch up with me in the long term, right? So, and I also knew that my mother struggled to get us through. I mean, we were not the wealthiest, but she tried her best to make us fit in. And seeing the struggles that she went through as an entrepreneur, self-employed female, I I understood that one of the biggest challenges, especially from a person running a business in a township, was you don't have access to funding. and
Mm.
all the disadvantages that come with being an entrepreneurship business owner. You don't have access to funding, you don't have the skill sets, there's a lot of things. So for me, how I then married that with my love for numbers was that, okay, I know I've got an entrepreneurial blood in me, but I don't want to face the same struggles my mother is facing. So what is it that I can do to ensure that I still pursue the entrepreneurship journey, but with a better education attached to it? And when I
Yeah.
started learning more about what accounting is and what a CA is, for me, how I interpreted that was that, okay, here's a way where I can understand business and still in the long run venture into entrepreneur, because I mean that's been the ultimate goal. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur and run my own business, but I needed to understand how the management side of it worked. So then it made
Right.
sense to say, okay, go and get a qualification that can link up to that element. And for me, what made sense at the time was the accounting,
Mm.
where, okay, accounting, if I can understand accounting, I can understand business, then I can actually go in and help people like my mother who are struggling to get their businesses off the ground, who don't get support from government, who don't know how to access the various financing that is available. All those disadvantages that she and people like her are facing, I now have an opportunity with this qualification to come back and say, listen, I now know why your business is not working. It's A, B, and C, right? So for me, like I said, it all goes back to my mother and how she brought us up and what she was doing to make ends meet, which
Yeah.
then ultimately turned out to how can I make that situation better for her and people like her. And yeah, and long story short, accounting was the answer.
Good. You speak of the struggles that you experienced. You're saying that we didn't have enough, and and all of those things. And for me, I almost want to say to you, I think only when I was a grown up and I started seeing other people with cars and other people staying in complexes and things like that, I didn't think we were struggling. Like my mom hid that so good. Um, we had, if I were to put the benchmark with my kiddies' eyes, we had a cool life. And
Mm.
only when I grew up, I was like, oh no, man, we were poor.
Yeah.
We were struggling.
Yeah, man.
But parents, they have that ability. I suppose you don't know what you don't know, but also your parents cover you and give you everything else that you are in need of at that particular time. And as you start to see different things out there, that's when you start figuring out, oh, okay, I can do a little bit more. So now you're at the university, you're seeing all of these things, and you're staying in a commune. How long did you stay in a commune?
I stayed in a commune for, I think I stayed in a commune for 3 years. Yeah, 3 years.
Okay,
Different
right,
communes though. It wasn't the same throughout. It was at different places every year.
sure. Why were you moving though?
Uh, well, it wasn't by choice. It was a matter of who's funding me at the time. Who's
Sure.
helping, yeah, who's paying for the accommodation at the time, and what is it that they can afford at that point in time. Because yes, my journey was a roller coaster one. If I could tell you the story of my life, yes, we'll be an entire day. So I had a roller coaster sort of experience, not only in my high school, but in mostly in my varsity. Things were just all over the place. But I mean, yeah. So depending on who is it that's going to help me with the funding for that particular year, I'm gonna go with whatever it is that they can afford at that point in time, and that's what it was. It was just a matter
Sure.
of make yeah,
Did you even
flowing, going with
know?
the flow.
Sure. Did you even know at the beginning of the semester that Uncle Susan and Auntie Betty was going to be your funder for that year? Or how did it translate for you?
Well, let me give you a bit of a quick summary. Yeah. So
Yeah.
in my first year, I didn't go straight into varsity after high school. So I
Yeah.
took I called it a gap year, but it wasn't really a gap year. It was a forced gap year,
Yeah.
where
That is so cheese boy to have a gap year. Like, what is
yeah,
that?
yeah, it was very cheese board. So I basically did not. So my marks did not qualify me to go to UJ. So my matric
Right.
marks did not
Yeah.
qualify me to go to UJ immediately, right?
Yeah.
But it did qualify me to go to UNISA, right? For
Mm.
some reason, I don't know what the reasoning was, but the one university could accept me, the other one couldn't. So in my first year, after high school, I done the UNISA route, and whilst doing that, I found employment. I was lucky enough to find employment straight out of high school, and but I always just had this thing in me that I need to be at UJ. You know, I felt for me because at the time UJ was renowned for being the best accounting university. So I've always been the person who wants to go with the best. I mean, if I want to be challenged, I want to be challenged by the best. So I just wanted myself there. So I done the first year at Unis, and then I found a way to go back to, or rather to go to UJ through meeting whatever requirements they'd set for me.
Mm.
So I didn't leave my employment that I
Right.
had. So I continued working even when I moved over to UJ. So then my first year of studying at UJ, I was paying for my own studies, and I was still living at home back then
Yeah.
because I could marry the two. The small peanuts I was earning, because it was really peanuts. I mean, it wasn't a lot of money, but I mean, it was enough for me to get by because I didn't have a lot of responsibilities. And then it's in the second year at UJ, after I had proven myself that I'm capable to be there, and I think I had reasonable, I had decent marks, that I then qualified for NASFAS in my second year.
Right.
And that's, yeah, so NASFAS then paid for my UJ second year, and NASFAS at the time, I think I was still living at home back then. So my first 2 years, my first year at UJ, I was living at home. Second year, I was living at home. Then I found out, because at the time I didn't know NASFAS could provide accommodation. Then in my
Mm.
third year
For,
at
for,
UJ,
for some of our guests, Calvin, that don't know what NASFAS is, what is NASFAS?
so NASFAS is, I think it stands for National Student, I don't know, but it's a program that the government has that assists students that are underprivileged with their studies, the university studies.
It's a bursary
So
fund for the government. Yeah.
yeah, it's a bursary fund from the government.
Yeah.
And funny enough, I didn't even know nothing about it. I was literally, because I remember how I came across NASFAS. I was going to our finance department at UJ, trying to negotiate some way that they can assist me for me to come back and study the following year, because I mean I'd run out of reserves. And there and
Right.
then someone told me about NASFAS. They pointed me to the office and they said, just go apply there. And that's literally how I found out about it. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't study it anywhere or read about it anywhere. So a lot of the things that happened in my life, Taurai, I feel, because I mean I'm a Christian. I believe in God. I feel that there's been a divine intervention in a lot of things. I mean, me being at the right place at the right time, coming into a person who just tells you something that you weren't even looking for, but
Yeah.
ultimately ends up helping you. So I think a lot of those things happened. But long story short, so I lived in a commune for the first time in my third year at UJ. And then the second year I lived in a commune was when I was doing my honors. And then I had to repeat my honors. I failed it the first time. And then the third year I lived in a commune was when I was doing my honors for the second time. So those are the 3 years where I lived in a commune. And yeah, man.
Yeah. So eventually you get your degrees and your honors, and I'm sure your mom, coming through from the background that she has come through. I think for me this is the point of the parent where they're like going, phew, I've done a good job. because now you can show something. You know, you've gone
Mm,
through university, you're going out through a high school, and you're beginning to show that the whatever that you've been teaching you all along is great. And not only that, but you're also teaching your siblings. You know, you got younger brothers that are coming through behind. So in the family, you're kind of like that guy. Can you not be like Calvin? You know, Calvin is doing great things. In your view, how did your mom experience your achievement to you just getting your honors, for instance, your first job?
mm. Yeah, man. I promise you. Like I think it was more of a relief for her than it was for me. You know,
Yeah,
because like I say, man, like I took her through a lot, and getting her to try help me with this, funds for this and that, and not once did she ever mention or say that I can't do it, even
yeah,
though I knew she couldn't do it, but she would say, "Don't worry, I'll make a plan. All I need
wow,
to see now is for you to finish school." And when I remember the day I called her to tell her that I'd actually passed my honors, yeah, man, it was a day. I think for her it was. I think she at that point in time felt okay. Now I can rest. Like now I can relax. Because it was a journey and a half, my man. It was not an easy one. I promise you that much. But
yeah,
I
yeah,
think, yeah, when she got the news that I'd finally, because remember the year before that, I'd failed it. And accounting is one of those courses, or the honors is one of those courses where you fail one subject, you fail the entire course. So you can't just
sure,
come back next year and say, no, I'm just going to do the one that I passed. You literally have
yeah,
to come back and repeat the entire course. So when that happened, when she got that news, you could sense, because it was over a phone, but you could sense that, um, yeah, man, she felt proud, not only of me, but of the struggle that she endured during the time. So for
yeah,
yeah, like you can't put in words what the experience was, and hence I took it upon myself to say, okay, she went through that with me. I can't see her going through that with the other two. So I now have to take the baton, It now has to be my role to ensure that the other two, um, have a slightly easier path. Lucky for
yeah,
me, my sister was already set in her own chosen career, because I have a sister after me, then the last born is a brother. So it wasn't too much of a struggle in that I had two people to, sort of motivate or be role models for, but it was just my brother. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah,
I,
man.
I, I think a lot of people, I've seen, I think there's a book, there was a series that spoke to the black text, um, and you speaking proudly of your mom taking you to a different space, and you feel there's no one who's forcing you to look after your siblings in one way or shape or the other, but you feel obliged that you need to do this. What's your views on black text? And by the way, I don't even think that it's black text because whether you're white or black, if the responsibility is there, it's just there.
Yeah, I think it goes with maturity. I mean, two people can view the same thing in two different ways. Like you say, some
Right.
people call it black tax, and I think the connotation around black tax, it makes it non-enjoyable. It makes it feel like now you are forced to help those who got you to where you are. Because like I
Yeah.
say, I mean, I wouldn't lie to you, I would not be where I am if it wasn't for the support I got from my mother. So now
100%.
for me to now then say, oh, this person is now texting me and there's black text and that. For
Yeah.
me, I think that would be a big slap in her face to say, listen, after all these years of enduring and doing all of this, and now you can't even, you seeing me as a burden in your life. And for me, I've never referred to it as black tax.
Yeah.
For me, it's a responsibility. I mean, I can choose not to do it, but what would that say about me? And I'm a big believer in gratitude. You show gratitude to those who helped you when they could have chosen otherwise. I mean, she could have been like any other parent and say, listen, you're done with high school. Now go see yourself off. She could have done that. There was nothing stopping her from doing that, and she could have been like any other parent in my neighborhood that took their children to a township school. There was nothing stopping her from doing that, but I mean, she chose to go that extra mile, and I'm where I am now because of that. So for me, my man, it's not black tax. It's not like I take pride in being able to assist. I actually wish I could assist more than I currently am. But for me, it's something that, listen, it's one of the things that are inspiring me. Funny enough, coincidentally, I was having this conversation with my mentor yesterday, and he was asking me, we were just having a long conversation, and this actually came up to say, I think he asked me, why am I working so hard? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And I mentioned to him, like, listen, I feel like I owe a lot to my mother. And up until I get to a point where she doesn't have to wake up unless she wants to, obviously. She doesn't have to wake up to go hustle or to go, make ends meet. Up until I get to a point where I can make that fine for her, then I can't stop working. I just need to continue. I know the time will come when I've realized that dream, and up until that happens, I just need to keep on pushing, okay? Yeah.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. For me, I was abandoned at a young age, and I had parents that took me in. So I've got foster parents. And I said to my wife the other day, you know, the person that I call my mom is not really my biological mother. But here's the thing, she looked after me from when I was around about 3 months up until now. Had she saved all of that money, she would have been
Mm,
somewhere else. So, I mean, she's 75, she stays with us now. And that's by choice, and I said to my wife the other day, look, for me, I'm just grateful that we're in the position where I don't want to call it giving it back, because you can never give back, you know. But can I just be able to be appreciating of the person who has made who I am today? So totally understand where you're coming from with the black text, and I think that's why I'm beginning to see why I like you. There's lots of parallels between the two of us in terms of how you think, how
yeah.
you do things. So great. When did property bite you, and how did it come into play? I mean, you're an accountant. CAs generally, very few CAs go into real estate. They keep into their own circles of being a CA because they're getting paid good. And besides being
Mm,
getting paid good, in our market right now, particularly black CAs, you guys are hot cakes. You know,
yeah. Yeah.
you are needed in the corporate space like never done before. I mean, you can raise your hand right now, and you get a job potentially next week. You know, um,
Mm.
but you are choosing that, not that route. You want to press on your real estate.
Yeah, man. Like I say, for me, being a CA wasn't the ultimate goal. It was just a means to an end. It's a
Okay.
step. It's a step I need to take for me
Yeah.
to realize my true purpose or potential. And
Right.
I think it differs from person to person. I know friends who being a CA was the ultimate goal, and now they've reached that, they've got very few things to look forward to. And
Mm,
for me, I mean, to answer your question, like I say, the property bug first bit me when I was doing my honors,
yeah.
living in a commune, and I
Yeah.
realized that, listen, for me to realize the potential of ultimately running my own ship, I need to find some form of way of creating passive income. And for me at the time, property just made sense. And like I said, the knowledge wasn't there in terms of property investing and all of that. But how I viewed it at the time is, I mean, how difficult could this be? I get a property, I get a bond, I get a tenant pays for the bond. After I'm done, I get my income. So for me, it was logic. There wasn't any science to it or anything like that. So it was
It sounds
what I,
very easy though.
yeah, well, I didn't have the education back then.
Is it easy?
Well, we'll talk about that. But I think that's what persuaded me to take up property. You know,
Yeah,
the thought of having something that will pay for itself. Because, like I say, I knew I'm not in the CA thing for the long run. My
right.
goal, even my friends will tell you, when I first started my articles, I told them my target here is 5 years. I'm going to do 3 years articles. I'm going to do 2 year post articles. I want to learn as much as I can in those 5 years. And after that, I'm out. I'm going to run my own stuff. And I didn't necessarily do it in 5 years. I done it in six, but I mean, I was 1 year, off in
Um,
terms of my target,
yeah,
because I done my articles 3 years, practiced for 3 years, and then I went out of the system. I'm still qualified and registered, but I'm not practicing as a CA.
okay.
And
But what has that helped you though in your business? So now you've got your business going on in real estate. And by the way, what do you do in real estate?
so I am. We started off within the student accommodation sector.
Yeah,
So immediately after starting articles, we went around and we found a way to get into that because that's what we knew. My partner and I, that's what we knew, and
yeah,
that's how it started. But our vision was always we want to be in development. That was always been the vision to say. I, till today, I still see myself having a portfolio the size of your Baldwin properties. And that's still a
yeah,
target for me. But we realized then that, listen, guys, we're not going to just wake up and have a development. We need to start somewhere. So how
right,
about we start small? And our first investment was a normal apartment where we were renting it out to two students. But then we quickly realized that, okay, there's a better market in the commune sector. We went there. And long story short, where we are now is we finally at a point where we can actually venture into developments, which was our initial vision, right? And
right,
how accounting has helped me or helped us, because my partner is also a CA, how it's helped us, it's made it easier to understand the numbers, right? And I say, like, that's one of the advantages that my profession has given me in the property space, in that a lot of people, what I've noticed, they understand the logic and behind, okay, property can pay itself and all of that, but missing how to run the numbers can get you in a lot of hot water. And I mean, and we take it for granted. Like the point is that we also made the mistakes being CAs and all that, but we had to, be humble and understand that we might actually be forced to learn from guys that might not be as educated as us, but are more experienced within the property space. And I think us, be humbling ourselves to that level and actually being sponges, because like I say, till today, I don't consider anything that I come across as a failure. It's either a lesson or a success. So we've been learning, we've just been getting the lessons, we're still getting the lessons, we've got the mentors. So we've been following the steps, and accounting has helped us with the numbers part of it. It's also helped us with the business side of it, but we still needed to go and get the property experience side of it. And that accounting wasn't going to assist us. Yeah.
you speak of your mentor
Yeah.
and people that have gone before you. A lot of people are scared actually to not scared per se, but a lot of people don't want to pay for mentorship. I've paid for mentorship here in South Africa. The last I did a check at one goal, I think very close to 100,000 or just above that. I've paid for mentorship in US dollars. Um, and I've seen the value of it because I'm learning new things that I can deploy in my business and it works,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
And it's new information that I didn't know. And I've just realized that the more I get new information, the more I'm growing as a person, as a business, and and I want to be in a room where there is more people that know more than I do. What's the value that you seeing from your mentor right now?
Yo, my man, it is so priceless. It's not even funny. When we started in the game, we started in 2015, doing it by ourselves, made the mistakes. 2016, we got our second property, made the mistakes. And actually, so how I was one of those that felt, listen, I mean, how difficult could this thing be? I mean, I'm a CA. Just like literally, how difficult could
I like
it be?
that.
But
Yeah,
yeah, I quickly realized that, yeah, man, I was lying to myself. I was lying to myself. And so I remember I actually I went to a property workshop back in 20, I think it was in 2018. So I think
yeah,
2015, 16, 17, we were doing it by ourselves. No mentor, no nothing. And we didn't even know what we were doing at the time. We didn't know whether it was right or wrong. We just felt, we thought we were doing the right thing.
yeah,
2018, I went to this workshop, and that's when the mentor concept was first introduced to me. And I realized at that workshop that, I could have saved, or we could have saved ourselves so much money if we had a person from day one that was actually guiding us, and we literally had to, accept that we needed to, you know, bring ourselves down to a level where we are saying, okay, let's be students again, right? We think we made it because we now accountants and so on, but I mean, let's actually take that out the window. Go back and let's be students. Consider yourself a student as if you've now ventured into a new industry that you know nothing about, and there are people that definitely know more than you. And coming out of that workshop, I made it a mission to find a mentor. I literally went around every single person I was meeting. I was asking, do you know of anybody who's successful in the property space that I can learn from? And
yeah,
that's how I came across my mentor. So I didn't literally, it wasn't a paid for mentor. It was just me asking everyone. And by luck, someone came across and said, listen, I know this man who's actually in the space and is doing very well. Have a chat with him. I had a chat with him. And you know what I realized then? I mean, we have this assumption that successful people are inferior, like they don't want to talk to people, they don't like people,
yeah,
and here comes a man, because at the time is old. I mean, he's 60 this year. Here
yeah,
comes a man who, at the first opportunity of talking to him, he says, okay, what do you need? I'm like, but I mean, why are people scared of you? Why is nobody that's referred? I mean, because I mean, he lives in a street where everybody knows him, but no one talks to him because they're scared, his
yeah,
success and all of that. And I chatted to him. He didn't know me from a box, and he welcomed me with open arms. And from the get go, there was just this. We just clicked. Today is more than a mentor. Today is he sees himself as my stepfather.
yeah. That's what it is.
So yeah, so today we've crossed the mentor-mentee relationship. Now we family, and but I didn't get there by chance. I didn't get there by fluke. It was an outright attempt for me to say I need to learn. And I think what made it acceptable for him to take a liking to me was that I didn't go there asking for stuff or for cash. I went there asking for knowledge. And I think
Yeah,
that's the mistake a lot of people make. They expect a mentor to literally walk in the door for them and do everything for them. And that's not how it works. he's just going to show you which doors to knock on. And
Yeah.
then you going into there is then up to you. And
Yeah.
I think Ubabjab, I call him Ubabjab, I call him my old man now. I promise you, since meeting him, things changed for us literally 360 degrees. Like he literally showed us all the wrong things that we had done up until that point.
Yeah.
And from that point onwards, we never looked back. Like we literally tidied up everything. I mean, we went 3 years of making a mess. And in just 1 year of meeting him, we literally cleaned up everything that we'd gone through in the past 3 years. And today, he's the very same person that's now helped us get into the development space. So for me,
Cool.
yeah, and for me, I mean, you say that you've paid money for mentorship, which for me is literally priceless. I mean, another person might say 100,000 is a lot of money, but if you look at the value that you get out of that 100,000, you can't monetize it. You literally can't put a value to it. And my approach was, like I say, he didn't physically charge me,
Yeah.
but what I rather done is I said to him, listen, how can I be of assistance to you?
Yeah.
I'm an accountant. I know the numbers. You know the property space, right? Can I not maybe do your books for free?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
the value I'll then bring to this relationship, because you also don't want to be a person who's just,
You're
being
taking.
a, you're just taking,
Yeah.
you're not giving anything back. So I
Yeah.
think my
Eh,
approach and why he ended up taking a liking to me was I came there with saying, I want to learn, but I can also offer this.
yeah.
And lucky for me, it was a service he was in need of. And
Absolutely.
yeah, today the relationship is unbreakable. Yeah.
Where are you in your business now?
The property business or my own business?
The property business.
We've just got into developments now. We've
Good.
just got into development, and that's the next phase. Like I said, we started off in student accommodation, and
Yeah.
with the intention of going into developments, and we literally just got introduced into developments this year. Yeah.
Cool. Are you still employed or you left the job?
No, I left the job. I left the job for another reason. I didn't leave it for property. I left it for
Yeah.
another reason. But I'm no longer in practice. Yeah.
So here's the thing, right? And this happens quite a lot with mothers that have taken through their kids to the level that you got to, or even not even that, but just from a parenting perspective. And you probably think that the pinnacle of this is going to get a job and you're working somewhere else. And your child comes back home and they say they're not going to be working anymore. How did that conversation go with your mom when you said I'm not going to work anymore and I'm chasing this real estate thing?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, man, my mother is one of the most supportive people you'll ever come across.
Wow.
The first question she asked me was, "Is it what you want?" And I said,
Okay.
"Yeah, that's what I want." And she said, "If it's what you want and it's gonna make you happy, go for it. No questions asked.
Wow. Nice.
No question asked." So, and I think what made it easier, like I say, is that she's never been an employee. So
Mm,
I was fortunate enough to have a person who's seen it from the other side of things. I think it would
right.
have been much more difficult if she was a career person and an employee, and then I come home after 7 years of study and I say, nah, but I'm leaving that. I think it
Yeah.
would have been much more difficult for her to accept, but because she understands the power of running your own ship, she was more welcoming. Funny enough, it was other people, like my friends and other people, who were more scared for this particular move than my mother. My mother was like, "Is it what you want? Is it going to make you happy? Go for it." I mean, what's the worst that could happen? It fails, you go back to employment. You know,
What does success look like to you?
happiness, happiness. I mean, for me, I guess it's twofold. The one is achieving whatever it is you've set your target, your eyes on, and the
Yeah.
second one is it's really happiness, man. And that happiness is influenced by other people having a smile on their face as a result of your contribution to their lives. Because I mean, it's easy to say, "Are we working hard for money?" I mean, money. We came here with nothing. We're gonna leave with nothing, you know. But I mean, if at the end of it all, when your day comes, I think the one question you'll probably ask yourself is, um, how did I affect or impact other people's lives? And I think I try my best to ensure that everyone I come across, doesn't matter who you are, that there's some value I leave in your life, you know, whether it's through something new I would have taught you or something you would have been inspired by. But I try by my best to say, if I can see as many of those that I come across benefit from my existence, that makes me happy. And for me, that's success, man. That's success.
Cool.
Money and all of that is nice. I mean, we need it. But at the end of it all, if you're not sharing it with loved ones, then it's going to be meaningless, you know. It's really going to be
Mm-hmm.
meaningless. Yeah. So I think seeing my mother have a smile on her face because I can help her with certain things, you know, I can help her buy certain things that she couldn't buy by herself. I can help her build certain things. If I can see that smile and a smile on my daughter, if as a father I'm doing everything that should be done, then I think I've reached success. Yeah.
Amazing stuff. Thank you for being here, Calvin. My last
Yeah.
question that I'm going to ask you is, to someone else who's watching, potentially with the same background with you, and or potentially they're just scared and they're not so sure, is this for them? Should they do it? What's your advice?
Do it anyway. Do it
Boom,
anyway.
boom, ladies and gentlemen, that was Calvin. You had it.
Yeah.
Even if you're scared, just do it anyway.
Yeah. That's the fun of it, man. You know, the things that you achieve and you're done out of fear, those are the
Yeah,
ones that you cherish the most because you stand there thinking, yeah, man, I went through that. Do it anyway.
I'm
Yeah.
consistently in fear, man. The other day I woke up and I said, "This is going to be a TMI," and I said to my wife, "I feel like I just made poo in bed," and she's like, "Why?" I'm like, when you get that fear in you,
Yeah.
the moment you poo, you have survived. You know what I mean? And that's how intense it's been for the last couple of days. And I just woke up feeling that way. And she's like, "You're crazy." I'm like, "No, no, I'm just sharing what happened, with me." So, but
Mm.
anyways, it's but
You
but
know,
here's the thing about fear.
yeah.
I think if it's something bigger than what you've ever done, you fear is always going to be there. I don't think it ever goes away.
No, 100%. 100%. Like for me, I think fear is necessary. I don't know how other people feel. I think fear shows that you care, you know. It shows that, listen, I care that this thing goes right. Because
Right.
if you don't fear it, then what's like the satisfaction isn't as joyful. Like I fear everything, my man. Like before this interview came, before we started, I had this, rush in my heart and it's beating fast and I had to drink
The
water and I had to,
butterflies.
you know what I'm saying? So I fear everything before talking to a crowd, before hosting anything. Fear is always there, but
Yeah,
what I've learned, I've started embracing it. I've started saying, okay, I
yeah, yeah,
fear, you know.
yeah.
Then there's a little mantra I tell to myself in my head to calm myself down, and it works every single time. Like there's never been a time it's failed me. And after the event, then you realize, okay, I'm good now. You know, I'm better off than when this thing first started. And you celebrate, you just have that sense of you feel happy because you conquered something that you didn't think you'd conquer. So for
And
me, fear is necessary, and you know what's also necessary, Tara, and this is to answer a lot of people. This is to answer your question that you asked about what to tell people. What I realized, a lot of guys, the reason why they fear to do stuff is because they fear failing. And I look back in my life, and for me, my man, failure has been the best thing that's happened to me. You know, like I promise you, if I had passed my accounting the same time that I done it, like if everything
Yeah.
had went well, I wouldn't be where I am now. All those failures that came by, all those stumbling blocks, every single thing that didn't go as planned the first time, it made sure that I go back to a drawing board and realize that, okay, this is not how to do it. Let me now figure out how to do it. And through that, you actually learn and you get better and you become a better individual. So I think failure is necessary. You don't learn a lot from your successes, but I mean the failures. If you're the type of individual that says, listen, I failed once, it's not going to happen again. Now you're going to go out
Yeah.
of your way to ensure that you learn as much as you can so that you don't go through what you just went through. So I think all of those things are necessary. And a lot of people that don't start, a lot of people that are afraid to start, they're afraid to embrace failure, you know. And funny enough, I was having this conversation with someone yesterday, and I was saying that there's a big confusion between failing and being a failure. You know,
Right.
just because you're failing at something, it doesn't make you a failure. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, being a failure is a noun, it's a state of mind. You are a failure. That means you don't see yourself being anything else. But if you're still failing at something, it means it can still change. It's a doing word, it's a verb, you know. So if I say to you, go to Durban, and you have no idea which direction Durban is, and you just start walking and you're walking and you're walking, even if you're going in the wrong direction, at some point or another, you're going to realize, okay, this is the wrong direction. Let me turn around and go this different direction. So you start off by failing, but because you were failing, you turned around and now you headed towards success. And a lot of people don't start because they're afraid to face that potential failure. But it needs to happen. You need to fail for you to get to the next level, or else you're just going to be another average individual, you know. Yeah.
Amazing. Calvin, thanks for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Calvin speaking to us about his personal journey. I did tell you I'll bring you a successful friend, and you had the conversations. And for me, my takeaways, I got plenty of takeaways from this guy. And let us know in the chat, let us know what you have learned from Calvin. And by the way, if you want to reach out to Calvin, his details are going to be in the links below in the description there. You will be able to get all of his links and how you can get through to him. And by the way, Calvin also have a YouTube channel that you can go and check him out on what he's talking about. Definitely his conversations are going to be very different from mine. He is that guy who speaks about numbers. I don't speak about numbers. Okay, over and out. Cheers. God bless. Goodbye.